Okay, this last section that we're going to cover in Chapter 7 is solving quadratic equations using the quadratic formula. So what happens if your equation is so ugly that you can't factor it? How are you going to solve it? And that's what the quadratic formula is. So if you have been in Physics 11, you already know what the quadratic formula is, and this will be a nice easy lesson for you. So it says the roots of a quadratic equation in the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, as long as a isn't 0, because if a is 0, it would be 0 times x squared, and we no longer would have an x squared. You can determine it by using this quadratic formula. So x equals negative b. This symbol right here is plus or minus. So negative b plus or minus the root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, this is the a, this is the b, and that's the c in this formula. It says you can use this formula to determine the roots, if they exist, of any quadratic equation, even if it's not factorable. So you could use this all the time. If you hate factoring, you could use the quadratic formula every single time. I don't think it's faster if you can factor, but if you suck at factoring, use it all the time. It says the quadratic formula will give you an exact value for the solution, meaning you can actually calculate it down to decimal points. This b squared minus 4ac, this part that's inside the square root sign is called the radicand. And it says here that the radicand, b squared minus 4ac, simplifies, no, if it simplifies to a perfect square, then the equation can be solved by factoring. Okay, not important, but maybe one of the examples will show you that. And if the value of the radicand is negative, then the equation has no real solution. So if you end up with like negative 2 plus or minus the square root of negative 5 over 6, let's say, you can't take the square root of a negative number. So if you end up with a negative inside of this radical, there are no solutions, meaning the graph doesn't cross the x-axis, so maybe something like that. If it doesn't cross the x-axis, there's no x's, so there's no solution. Okay? So let's go over 2 examples just to show you what it looks like. And remember that it has to be in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c in order to plug it into the quadratic equation. So it says solve this quadratic equation for x squared minus 3 equals 7x and give it an exact answer and an approximate answer to 3 decimal places. Okay, so notice that we've got this equals here. We need it to equal 0, meaning we need everything on one side. So I'm going to subtract 7x from both sides. So now my equation is 4x squared minus 7x minus 3 equals 0. So here is my a, the 4. Here's my b, and it's negative 7. And here's my c, negative 3. So the quadratic equation is x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac. And then the whole thing is over 2a. So all we're going to do is plug in numbers. B is negative 7. So this is negative b, so it's negative 7 plus or minus b squared. Negative 7 squared minus 4. A is 4. C is negative 3. Okay, so all of this is inside the square root sign. Everything is over 2 times a. Okay, so first of all, I have negative 7, which of course makes it positive, plus or minus. So I'm going to get out my calculator. I'm going to calculate negative 7 times negative 7, which of course is 49. And then I have negative 4 times negative 3. Negative 4 times negative 3 is positive 48. 2 times 4 is 8. So I have 7 plus or minus 49 and 48 is 97 over 8. Let me just make my page a little longer. Okay, now I can't take the square root of 97. It's a decimal. It's close to 10. It's probably like 9.8 because it's almost the square root of 100. So I have two answers here. So my first answer is 7 plus the root of 97 over 8. That's called an exact answer. Okay, I know exactly what it is. I didn't have to round it off or anything like that. My first answer is 7 plus the root of 97 over 8. My second answer is 7 minus the root of 97 over 8. Okay, so the question said give an exact answer and then an approximate answer to 3 decimal places. So these are exact answers because I haven't needed to round off. And then decimal, you're just going to get out your calculator. I'm going to go 7 plus the square root of 97. Take that answer and divide by 8. Oops. So I get 2.106 to 3 decimal places. And then I'm going to go 7 minus the square root of 97. Divide that by 8. And to 3 decimal places, negative 0.356. Okay, so back up to our original question. 4x squared minus 7x minus 3. If I were to quickly sketch it, this is what it looks like. First of all, I know it opens up because my a is positive. Crosses my y-axis at negative 3. Crosses my x-axis at negative 0.356. It crosses at 2.106. And then it looks something like that. Okay, so when the equation is not pretty, or you just hate factoring, use the quadratic equation. All you got to do is plug in a, b, and c see what you get. Okay, second example. Solve the quadratic equation, x squared plus 9x plus 23 equals 0, and if there is no real solution, explain why. Okay, I always like to factor it first because factoring's faster, but this one I would need two numbers that multiply to 23 and add to 9. The only thing that multiplies to 23 is 1 and 23, or negative 1 and negative 23, but no way am I going to get them to add to 9. So I'm just going to use the quadratic formula, okay? So a this time, there's no number in front of the x squared. Hopefully you're thinking it's a 1. B is 9. C is 23. And everything's good because I have all the numbers on one side of the equation equals 0 on the other. Okay, quadratic formula. Negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, everything over 2a. Plug in your numbers. Negative b. B is 9, so negative 9 plus or minus 9 squared minus 4, 123 over 2a. A is 1. So I have negative 9 plus or minus on my calculator. I'm going to calculate 9 squared, 81. And then I have 4 times 1, which is 4. 4 times 23 is 92 over 2. So negative 9 plus or minus 81 minus 92 is negative 11 over 2. Okay, we have a problem. Do you see what the problem is? The problem is I have a negative number inside my radicand. Okay, you can't take the square root of a negative number. Can't square root negatives, right? Nothing times itself makes a negative number. Two positives are positive, two negatives are positive, and a positive number and a negative number do make a negative, but that's not times itself. Like negative 2 times positive 2 isn't a number times itself. The only way that you can get a negative number is you multiply two numbers that aren't the same. So because we can't square root a negative number, we have no solution. So this particular graph crosses the y-axis at 23. Doesn't cross the x-axis, so who knows? Could look like that, might look somewhere like that. Don't know. Okay? quadratic equation, nice and easy. Make sure that everything is on one side before you start firing in A, B, and C. All right, I don't think you're going to have too many problems with this. Good luck.